CFO, CEO, in some circumstances, synonymous with CASA. If you want to become a leader, if you want to make it to the upper echelons of corporate South Africa, a chartered accountancy designation is probably a good start. But still, how exactly, tactically, do we get there? What do we need to do in our 20s today as aspiring CAs to get there tomorrow? Once more, we are joined by KC Rottok Chesaina, CASA, Chief IFRS Officer at Financial Minds, best-selling author, and co-founder of CFO East Africa. We chat about lessons he's learned interviewing JSE-listed company executives for young professionals not to make the same mistakes they made in their careers, and ultimately, for you to thrive. We also chat about how your books actually make you money through networking, written books. How he got JSE accreditation as an IFRS specialist. Doors that opened because of his CA designation. What it truly means to go beyond the beans. The book launching strategy of one of his latest books, and more. I hope you enjoy. My travelers on the road to CASA, very, very quick one. If you would like to be a CEO or a CFO or a CEO or CFO curious, KC wrote some great books. He interviewed scores of executives, JSE-listed executives, amongst others. In his books, he writes about those guys in CFO, the CFO X Factor, and Masters of Money, all linked in the show notes. You can check out those books if you'd like to have a financial read. Please also check out part 1 if you have not already. With that, on to part 2. To get into this networking topic, I people often say it's not about what you know, it's about who you know, right? But I always say, yes, it's not about what you know, it's about who you know, but it's also about who knows you. And that's a lot of what that warm introduction helps with. It's because now there's this social proof that says Casey is not someone who is not worth at least that 5 minutes, that little introduction and whatnot. But if you were to speak to a student, right? What should a student or even like a first year, second year trainee at an audit firm or wherever, what should they know about networking today, in your opinion, that they shouldn't learn tomorrow and then regret?
Yeah, about networking, yeah. So, what I agree. I think networking is multi-pronged, right? So I've met people who want to build their network, but when I ask them, like, do you have a LinkedIn page, for example? Like me, I discovered LinkedIn and became active on LinkedIn maybe when I wrote Masters of Money. But before that, I never used to visit LinkedIn. I was just like a Facebook guy, and Instagram, right? And I didn't realize how much money I was leaving on the table by not being on LinkedIn. There's actually a monetary value to networking. Like when people ask me, how much money have you made from the book that you wrote? Like the book Beyond the Beans that I wrote. How much money have you made from this book? And they think the money that I've made is, oh, you sell it for 250 Rand, okay. So it's sold for 250 and if it sells for 250, then each copy is this. It's not about the book itself. It's about the connections that I've made with the 30 people who are in that book. And if I were to tell you the amount that those relationships have given, it's immense. And it's also immense not just because of, say, the business that I have written from one individual in the past, say 12 months or 24 months. It's also the future value of that relationship, right? The amount of that relationship is going to give me in the future, right? And not just that, sometimes talking to a particular person can open up your mind to something, can just give you a gem, some diamond in the rough that is life-changing, right? You'll talk to, for example, I spoke to the CEO of Bidvest, and then she told me something that was so profound. And she was like, most people don't know how to sell because they're just telling you about them, right? Like you just believe that I'm trying to sell Alunga a book. And then I make this big effort to meet Alunga and I show him the book. And then I start telling him, hey, Alunga, you must read this book. My book has A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L. I have no idea about Alunga. Maybe Alunga, I don't know, maybe your dad, when you were young, threw a book at you and it hit you on the head and you hit books from then on, you know? So I'm wasting my time. I'm spending so much money trying to get you to buy a book, but you hate the sight of books. You have nightmares about books. So the key thing is to understand what is it that Alunga's needs are. And maybe if it's he loves knowledge, but he doesn't like books, then I can think, oh, okay, maybe I should organize an audiobook for this guy. Or maybe if I told him there's an ebook, then he's going to buy, right? He'll consume it in another format. And I'm just using books as an example, but that was a gem that I learned from meeting someone who's very intelligent, very successful. And how do you put a value to knowledge? It's very hard because it was like a life-changing thing. And with all the business ideas I have that thought process of trying to understand what is it that this person is interested in, and how do I have the tools to solve the things that they are looking for? Yeah.
Serendipity is that word that comes to mind for me, because it's the same exact deal with me. There's these like small, there's that, let's call it one. There are those 1% ideas that are not just valuable, but timeless. They literally, they form the foundation of your entire life and your entire career and whatever it is that you're doing. And oftentimes it's not found out through something, but someone. And that's why I love networking. And it's like people are so much easier to learn from as well, in the sense that when you have a conversation with someone, there is a sort of human face and a voice and the inflections of their voice, and like you can sort of tie it to an experience. I feel like that's probably why I like to learn through people, and that's why I attend the lectures unlike some of my friends. But I also wanted to get into this JSE accreditation. I think that thing was really interesting to find out about how much it takes to get JSE accredited. Like I think I saw something like in like a 2008 article, like 800 hours of experience within the last 12 months. When did you get accredited? Because I think some aspiring CAs who are really interested in that financial accounting vertical, they would definitely love to look at a career as an IFRS specialist. How long did it take for you?
Okay, so JSE accreditations, and it's a bit of a thing now because the JSE had this thing where audit firms so many people were claiming they can audit a JSE company.
Sure.
And the JSE was finding audit firms that were making horrendous mistakes, which is bad because these people end up then um, uh, making a mistake with numbers, and people like you and me are buying shares, and those mistakes are costing you money, And so the JSE was like, to protect the investors, we need to accredit audit firms that we think have the level of expertise to audit Johannesburg Stock Exchange listed companies. Then they took it a step further to say, not just auditors, there are so many people who are giving advice, like on accounting standards to companies, and there are people who are giving the wrong advice, and it's resulting in the wrong application of accounting standards, and therefore we need to accredit people who can do it. So the way they did that is by ensuring that people have the relevant expertise, have spent a sufficient number of hours consulting to entities of significant size, and therefore they have the expertise to give them advice. And so it was meeting those hours. I met the hours and I was accredited. And the JSE they've reviewed this accreditation process, but people who are accredited, they've not said that they're not accredited anymore. But it's still a concept where it gives credibility that you got that accreditation at some point in your career, which says you're an expert when it comes to the accounting standards and can be able to provide advice on their application. Yeah.
And sure, now I'm just thinking about where does the CA plug into this? Because I think young professionals need to understand the CA as a tool. I'm a big believer in that. I mean, like our whole slogan on the road to CA is, it will not end, it will begin in CASA, because really it's about getting to that level that you can consider this whole idea of JSE accreditation and talking to your networks and starting up an IFRS consultancy practice. But like, sort of my question would be, where would you not have gotten through the door without your CASA? And let's even slot in that MCOM. Where would you not have gotten into the door?
Oh, plenty of places.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, if I didn't have my CA today, I perhaps would be not definitely not be as far as I am with my career. I mean, just sending someone an email, "Hi, I'd like to interview you for my next book. Kind regards, KC Rottok Chesaina, CASA with an MCOM." You know, it just makes a difference. I mean, just think about it. How many people send you an email trying to get your attention every day, and you make a call as to whether they are worth your time or not? It's just how people work, especially in business. Um, you know, so even I think the books that I've written have been helped by the fact that you have the accreditation, and then, by association, people then think, okay, cool. Just by saying you're a CA, it says many things. It says, one, you have a financial understanding. So I'm going to be talking to someone of some level of intelligence. Two, you have some discipline, because you won't achieve CASA without discipline. You'll need to study hard. You'd have to, I mean, it's like someone who emails you and they have PhD behind their name. You're just like, oh gosh, this is someone who's studied, This is someone who's, yeah. So it does have that same kind of feel to it, as a starting point. And then having the actual CA, which is quite a holistic qualification because it has the financial accounting, auditing, management accounting, and all that. Helps. It means that someone can be able to, you have some financial acumen when you talk about things like investment and ROI and so on. Someone doesn't have to explain what those things are, and that then adds an additional element to an engagement. So it's definitely helped me along the way. In my profession, I've seen people who've not got a CA, and there are some you find are not promoted to, you don't go to the next level simply because you never got the CASA, and therefore, even like with the JSE, you can't be a JSE advisor if you're not a CA. So
Sure.
there are some things that I do to make a living today that I wouldn't have done without the qualification. Yeah.
Sure, man. And I feel like it's so important that you realize how every interaction changes. I was chatting with some of my friends who are newly qualified CAs. They're the founders of this company, Apti, which is such a great company. They connect CA students to their ideal articles, right? And
Okay.
I was chatting to them and I was like, guys, what's different now that you're a CA? Like, have you learned anything new? Because now you walk on water, you exist on a different wavelength, like Casey. Maybe not like Casey because there's different levels of the CA thing, but now you guys are CAs. What's different? And one of them, Nick, he's like, oh, okay, good question. And he's like, nothing actually technically is different. I'm doing the same work. It's not like I'm doing anything particularly different other than the fact that now he's in more leadership oriented roles. But he said that people listen. And I was like, yo, when you become a CA, that those little four letters, although they don't guarantee anything, they do make your word have a little bit at least more weight. If your word has more weight, do you know that you can advise on a JSE accredited IFRS advisory firm? Like you can say a word, even at home, for some of us that grandmom Coco wasn't going to say, wasn't going to believe you. But now when you say something, they believe you. And I feel like that is really, truly, in my opinion, worth the 7 years. If we look at some of those colleagues of yours and clients, those CFOs, those CEOs, in those books, right? And maybe we can even dive into just each of them individually. But what would you say was the through line in each of the books? I mean, just for one thing that I gathered from Masters of Money from my perspective as a young professional was, like the key, probably the recurring lesson was, don't stick to your audit articles, don't stay in one lane, move to that field earlier on, like straight out of articles, get into that mining, get into that banking, whatever your interests were. But what would you say are the through lines of those books?
Okay, yeah. No, I think, look, I'm not surprised you got that out of Masters of Money, because Masters of Money was a pure CFO book. Everybody in the book was a CFO. And therefore, they essentially, they left auditing and went into commerce, and they had a commercial mindset. And many of them used the expression, when I was in auditing, I was, inspecting and checking people's strategies, but I wanted to go to the other side and be the one who's actually crafting them and executing them, you know? So they felt like auditing is just, it's like an easy type of thing. You come and you ask lots of questions and ask questions and ask questions and demand justification and express an opinion. Whereas you come on the other side and you want to be the one answering the questions, and there's such a joy in coming up with the right solutions type thing. So that was a key theme out of Masters of Money. CEO X Factor, which is the bestseller, as you mentioned, did very well. Sold thousands of copies. Also has an audiobook available on Audible, so the publisher even put it in audio format, so it's doing great. CEOs, these are people who, as you've said, they earn big money, and they earn big money, but they have big responsibility, right? So the thing with the CEOs is they had a couple of things that they would say. I mean, some key to success also is luck, but you need to also prepare yourself. They say success is where preparation meets opportunity. So you need to prepare yourself. So that whole preparation, that having that determination and belief, overcoming this thing they talk about called imposter syndrome, talking about how you overcome that and have the mindset that you act. If not, it should be, why not you? Why not you? That's a thing people struggle with. Many people think, oh, that thing is for those type of people or that type of person. Why not you? It could be you. And then also with both books, like having that sense of nobody's gonna outwork you. They all had to work hard. CFOs, CEOs, I'm not gonna lie, especially of a big entity, you're not just going to cruise to a position. You need to be actually in the engine room, right? Outwork other people, and so that when it's time to be noticed, you're noticed, because people can be able to say, oh yeah, that guy, he went the hard yards. And Beyond the Beans combines both CEOs and CFOs and financial managers and so on. It's a bit of a mixed masala. It's called Beyond the Beans because it's people who went beyond bean counting, right? We are called bean counters as accountants. And what are you doing beyond now? And it was exploring the idea that, accounting is just the base. And it's a new environment, because back then, when you're an accountant, you'd just be an accountant, you'd be a historian where you just say, in the past year, we made X profit, in the past year, we did this and so on, and you're just a reporter, right? Now you're required to make the news. You need to be a strategist. You need to be, doing extraordinary things, right? So what are you doing beyond just the beans? Even and it's, I find it testament to also my life and the way I live it. Yes, I did the accounting. It's a good background, it's a good base for everything that I can do. But I don't think there's so many CAs you could interview. I think most of the ones you'll be interviewing are the ones who've gone beyond, the ones who've excelled beyond just the debit and credit. So that was the theme there, like people who've gone over, above and beyond, right? Yeah. So those are the threads, I'd say, through the 3 business books that I've written.
Sure, man. That it's so big, that whole idea that it's the base. It's so important to, and I literally, I'm gonna have to paraphrase it, but it just hit me like a truck yesterday. I was started reading Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics, which is such a it's an incredible, it's an incredibly dense book. Literally on the first page, he sort of says, I'm gonna have to grossly paraphrase, but he says, like, all things in life are for the good, and that is inherent in our nature. We only aim for good. But there's some things that are better than others, and they tend to be where the aim is not the works, but the aim is beyond the works. The aim is for a purpose. And I feel like CA is it's the exact same thing. The greatest bean counters, right? It's such a bad word to use, but the greatest bean counters are the ones that understand that they they exist beyond the beans, that they're called to something greater, that there's a purpose behind this path, that there's a destination beyond the designation. And if we can, like, I even think about like some of the best class reps that I've had, and some of the best class reps I've had, they weren't really there to be class rep. They were there to serve. There was an impact that was always at the fore. And I feel like it's the exact same thing. Being beyond the beans means that you are more than an accountant. Even before, I think, and that's what I sort of try to challenge people to think about. But I actually also wanted to ask about your launch strategy, because you've done it so successfully, this self-publishing of Beyond the Beans. What was the strategy behind that?
So I think I developed the strategy as I was going along, and I leveraged the experience and contacts that I had from my previous 2 books. So you must always learn from your previous experiences. So, for example, the book on the first day, I think we must have sold the first 100 books because we did a massive launch. So a massive launch was quite useful. The fact that we used the contact that I had to have a book launch at Gibbs, University of Pretoria, Gibbs, which is a wonderful venue, and they provided food and they provided the venue, and we filled a hall of 300 people there, and just talked on the topic. That worked perfectly, bringing in those massive numbers to launch the book. So that was the start, and then just doing my research, getting the book onto Takealot to sell there, and then just using social media, LinkedIn, to continuously push the book and keep it alive, ensuring that I get invited to book forums where I come and I speak about the book type thing. That was the strategy. So just ensuring that I plug into, for example, a Rotary clubs. They always have these business and networking evenings, and I'd speak at them, and I'd sell books, and that just worked extremely well. In as far as being able to sell the books, and the book is also a good book. So made sure that took all the learnings, because selling the book, you may sell a book, but if the book is not interesting, it won't carry on selling. I mean, like you've just mentioned a book now, and you've mentioned it, and then I'll be like, oh, that sounds interesting, and then I'll go and buy a book. And that's what happens even with mine, that someone reads it, someone goes on Takealot and reviews and says, oh wow, I read the book, it was an interesting book, I loved it, he hit the spot, blah blah blah, and then that makes someone else buy it. So there's nothing like the power of referral. Just the same way I said, being able to refer, people referring you, in as far as being referred to for purposes of interviews, where as CFO you do a good job and he refers you to his CEO. It's the same thing with people buying your book, is making sure that the book itself is a good book also. Yeah.
Always do great work. You can never, I always say, you can't have a braai, or you can't have a nyama choma without meat.
Nyama choma.
It's the meat.
Yeah.
It's the
meat,
great
yeah.
work that has to spread. You can't spread, I'm thinking of an appropriate word, but you can't spread bad work. Don't write a bad book and then try spread it. KC, if you could go back in closing to first year, second year, maybe even high school, KC, what would you tell him?
Oh, that's a good one. So if I went back to high school KC, I would say I'd use like Trevor Noah's expression, which is, I don't know if it's his original one or if he got it from somewhere, but Trevor Noah says, people who say it can't be done should not stop those who are doing it, right? And I love the expression because, look at Trevor Noah. It's just like an amazing thing that he, went all the way to Hollywood. Same thing with like Lupita Nyong'o. Lupita Nyong'o's dad and my dad were best friends, and she wanted to, they were best friends. Lupita, I don't think we ever met, but I knew of her family and probably she knew of mine. And she wanted to do art, and her father could have told her, go and do something else. You'll never make it in art. No, man, acting. No, people don't make money in acting. So, my high school Casey, I'd go and tell him like, dude, you don't have to compromise on your dreams, just pursue them, because then you will never have this thing of thinking, what could have been. So I think like where I am, I think I've ended up in a good place, but there's always things that I'll ask myself like, oh, there's that thing I could have done, but the fear of failure the fear of failure stopped me from doing it, right? And then I will always think about what if, and you don't want to have a bunch of what ifs. Of course, you have to be strategic. You have to know yourself. So if I, for example, had ambitions of becoming, a gold medal winner in marathon running, and you don't have the talents that other people do, then you're kind of going to waste a lot of time. But so if you know your talents, I think you should be able to exploit your talents without fear, is what I would say. So yeah, so that's the advice I'd give the high school Casey.
Know thyself and chart the path. You can know thyself. Make sure you understand your circumstances, your talents, your teachings, your privileges, but then chart a path. Yeah, guys, if you've not already, please, please follow this. Check out, man. I really enjoyed these books. I think I really actually, you know what? I enjoyed this, but I truly believe Masters of Money is more bespoke. It's more fitted to the aspiring CFO. I was chatting with some other people, some aspiring CAs yesterday, and she was like, this one girl who I was talking to, she was like, I don't know, maybe CFO, So if you want to be a CFO, if you want to be a CEO, check out the books. Check out Beyond the Beans.
And get beyond the beans, because I think my book writing also improves edition to edition. So you must get beyond the beans. It delivers the beans, if you want, for lack of a better expression.
It delivers the beans. That'll be linked in the show notes. But I hope that it does not end, but that it begins in CASA. KC, thank you, man.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Nice chatting to you.